Welcome back to Glasp Deep Dive. I'm Hope, here with Adam, and I'll confess up front, I kind of want one of these pendants. The little clip-on that records every conversation, so you never blank on a name at a party again. Adam, I forget names constantly, so sell me on why I shouldn't buy one.
I'll try, but not how you expect. The pendant pitch hides a question nobody selling one wants to answer. What happens to your mind when forgetting becomes optional?
And this stopped being a niche gadget story in 2025 because the two biggest data companies on Earth went shopping. Your spoken life officially became an asset class.
It did. Let's start there. The year big tech bought memory.
I'll take the first deal because the date stuck with me. July 22nd, 2025. Amazon acquires B, a $49 always-on pendant. By CES 2026, it's on stage as part of the Alexa roadmap.
Meaning the always-on microphone you wear joins the one in your kitchen.
Then Meta took the premium one, and that deal came with a casualty.
December 5th, 2025. Meta acquires Limitless, the darling of the productivity crowd. It's no longer sold to new customers. Meta bought the team and the data pipeline, not the gadget.
And the casualty was Rewind, their original product. The one that recorded everything on your screen and made it searchable.
2 weeks later, December 19th, Capture and Rewind got switched off. Existing recordings stay readable for about a year, then gone. The product that promised to be your perfect memory now has an expiration date.
So in about 5 months, a scrappy startup race became a duopoly of platform giants plus one independent. Hold that Rewind story. We're coming back to it.
Quick field guide before the philosophy. Limitless was the best-loved pendant among knowledge workers, which is exactly why Meta bought it.
B competed on price. $49, always listening, and now folding into Amazon's ambient computing plans.
Plaud is the independent survivor. The NotePen S costs $179, and reviewers rate it the best standalone AI recorder around. Crucially, the default is press to record, with 300 free minutes a month, scaling to about $240 a year.
And then there's Friend, the lightning rod of the whole category.
$99, always on, and not even pitched as productivity. It's an AI companion that listens to your entire social life and talks back. It drew heavy criticism, but it makes the always-on premise impossible to ignore.
Here's the pattern I can't unsee. The always-on devices got bought, and the one that asks you to press a button is the independent that reviewers respect most.
Not a coincidence, and it maps onto a dream much older than the pendant. 1945, Vannevar Bush describes the Memex, a machine holding all your books and records, retrievable through associative trails.
The founding fantasy of a prosthetic memory you could query. And somebody actually lived it, right?
Gordon Bell at Microsoft ran My Life Bits in the early 2000s. Documents, photos, phone calls, even a wearable camera snapping away automatically. His verdict after years of it? Capturing was easy. Making the archive useful was the hard part.
So the new pendants are just the Memex plus cheap microphones plus language models that can finally summarize the pile.
The hardware caught up to the fantasy, but Bell's lesson didn't. The bottleneck was never recording. It was turning the recording into something your mind can use.
Okay, here's my honest pushback. Because my mind loses things constantly. Names, ideas, entire conversations. Isn't a perfect record an obvious upgrade over a brain that leaks?
That's the premise the whole industry quietly assumes, and the Neuroscience says the opposite. In 2017, Richards and Frankland argued in the journal Neuron that transience, the brain's active forgetting, is a feature, not a failure.
Forgetting on purpose. Doing what for me exactly?
Clearing clutter, first. Drop outdated detail, and the version that matters now stays findable. Remember every parking spot you've ever used, and finding today's car gets harder.
And the second job is generalization. The brain lets go of specifics to keep the gist, the pattern that transfers. Remember the wording of every example, but never the rule, and you've stored data, not understanding.
And there's a clinical reminder. People with highly superior autobiographical memory can recall nearly every day of their lives, and by their own accounts, it's a burden, not a gift.
Some describe reliving painful events with the same vividness years later. The reason most of us forget the texture of an ordinary Tuesday is that forgetting it is healthy.
So the question was never, what if you could remember everything? It's what it costs to never decide what's worth keeping.
And even if I grant the pendant all of that, you keep hinting there's a second demolition waiting.
There is, and here's the line to keep. A recording you can search is not a memory you possess. That gap is one of the most robust findings in learning science.
The testing effect. Longtime listeners will remember we did a whole episode on active recall.
Same science. Back in 2006, Rediger and Karpicki ran the classic study. Students tested on material remembered far more a week later than students who restudied it, even though the restudy group felt more confident.
Because retrieving something from memory, effortfully, without looking, is itself a learning event. The struggle to pull it up isn't wasted time, it's the mechanism.
Now aim that at a life log. The pendant captures the conversation, transcribes it, files it away, and you never retrieve anything. The archive does the holding.
Which means the pendant doesn't help me remember the conversation. It guarantees I won't, because I never practice recall.
You've offloaded the exact act that would have made the memory yours. Sparrow's Google effect research showed this in 2011. When you know a machine holds the information, you encode it less deeply.
And a wearable recording my entire spoken life is the Google effect aimed at my whole day. The testing effect researchers handed down the verdict 20 years before the hardware existed.
Contrast that with highlighting a sentence or writing a 2-line summary. The choosing is the encoding. It's why the books you marked up stick and the podcasts you half listen to evaporate.
So the pendant optimizes for completeness, learning optimizes for effortful selection, and a tool built for one quietly undermines the other.
Now the colder question, ownership. If a device records your meetings, your dinners, your offhand remarks, where does that audio live?
For 2 of the 4 leading pendants, the answer since 2025 is Meta and Amazon, the 2 companies that most depend on knowing what people do, say, and want. Which is where the Rewind story pays off.
Rewind sold itself as a perfect memory. Then the company changed direction, switched capture off, and put a 1-year clock on recordings users had already made. The perfect memory had a corporate off switch, and the users didn't hold it.
So renting your memory from a company means your recall is only as durable as their business plan. And there's a desktop parallel, Microsoft's recall feature, which screenshots your PC to make everything searchable.
Same alarm. One continuously updated record of your life in a single place is a target and a liability, even if it's never misused. The wearable version just follows you out the door.
Give people the defensive questions to ask before they clip one on.
Ask these before you clip one on. Can you export your data in a portable format? If the company is acquired or shuts down, what happens to your archive, and how fast? Is capture default on, and who can sell it, subpoena it, or train on it?
Now the balance, because this is not an anti-recording episode. Passive capture genuinely wins when the record is the deliverable. The meeting you must act on, where you can't take notes and participate fully at once. Accessibility, where complete capture is the entire point.
Add the fast interview or brainstorm. For those jobs, Plaud's press-to-record design fits far better than an always-on companion, which might be why it survived.
But intentional capture wins everything I actually want to learn, because the friction is the feature.
So treat the pendant like the calculator it is. Great for arithmetic you don't need to internalize. Useless, or worse, for the math you're trying to learn.
Time for a plain disclosure. We make GLASP, a highlighting tool. So weigh this part however you like. But highlighting is the system version of this whole argument. A highlight library is a memory layer made of decisions.
Not everything you encountered, everything you decided, mattered. The encoding happens at capture time because you did the choosing. And highlights are exportable. So what happens to my memory if the company pivots? Nothing. You take it with you.
That's the episode in miniature. The pendant captures everything, and you own none of it. Intentional highlighting captures what matters, and you own all of it.
With one honest limit. For tomorrow's meeting you must act on, a highlight won't save you. Use a recorder. Highlighting works for reading and watching, where you do the choosing.
Quick, rapid-fire questions to land this book. First, are these pendants worth buying in 2026?
Depends on the job. For meetings and accessibility, yes, and Plaud is the one to look at. For learning, or anything you want to genuinely remember, they work against you.
Second, does recording everything actually help me remember it?
No, and that's the central misconception. Recording replaces memory rather than building it, because retrieval effort is what makes it stick.
Last one. Who owns the data from these wearables?
Increasingly, a platform giant. Check the export and shutdown terms before you buy, because Rewind users learned theirs afterward.
So, my party name problem survives the episode, and weirdly, I'm fine with that. The fix was never an archive. It's deciding in the moment that a person matters. Homework. Mark one passage today you want to remember a year from now. Then actually come back to it.
Because that act of returning is the one thing no pendant will ever do for you. Don't reject capture. Match the mode to the job.
Want to go deeper? Full articles on glass.co. Just search AI Wearables.
See you in the next Deep Dive.